If you're a new boat owner, you already know the incredible joy of being out on the water. And yeah, you probably also know that sudden jolt of anxiety when you hear a strange new noise. In this explainer, we're going to turn that anxiety into confidence. We'll troubleshoot the most common mechanical issues that, believe it or not, you can probably fix yourself. So let's dive in. Oh yeah, we've all been there. You're cruising along, the sun's out, everything is perfect, and then you hear it. A weird buzz, maybe a sluggish response from the steering, a little shake that definitely wasn't there a minute ago. And your heart just sinks a little bit, right? But hey, don't panic. Understanding your boat's systems, that's the first step to becoming a really capable and confident captain. All right, first up, let's talk about tilt and trim. Now, it seems pretty simple. It just moves the big motor up and down, right? Well, yeah, it does, but it is so much more than that. This system is kind of the secret sauce to your boat's performance. It affects everything from how much fuel you burn to just how smooth your ride feels. And it's not just about comfort. I mean, check this out from the Mercury Marine manual. Getting that trim just right is absolutely critical for performance. The correct angle gets you up on plane faster, it makes steering easier, it is literally the difference between a rough, bouncy, inefficient ride and just gliding across the water. It's a game changer. So what happens when your trim system starts acting up? Where do you even begin? You might think it's some super complex motor failure, but here's a huge insight from Boat US. Get this. Nearly half of all initial outboard issues start with the battery. It's a powerful reminder to always check the simplest thing first. So let's be smart about this. Before you assume the worst, just run through this really simple checklist. First up, is your battery fully charged? Are the connections on the terminals clean and tight? Corrosion is a killer. Second, try your switches, both at the helm and on the engine itself. Third, listen really close. When you hit that switch, do you hear a sharp click from the solenoid? That little sound tells you power is getting at least that far. And if all of that checks out, then, and only then, do we test the motor itself. But listen, before you even think about that last step, and I really can't stress this enough, safety first. The Yamaha Outboard Service Manual is crystal clear about this. Always disconnect the battery first. Look, this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It's absolutely essential to protect you from getting shocked and to protect your boat's sensitive electrical components from getting fried. Okay, so you've gone through all the electrical checks, everything seems fine, but the engine still won't move or it just feels really weak. So what's next? Well, now it's time to shift our focus from the wires to the fluid. It might just be a hydraulic issue. The good news is hydraulic problems usually leave clues. Be on the lookout for a low fluid level in the reservoir, or that sluggish operation we talked about. Maybe the engine slowly drifts down on its own. And make sure you really inspect the hose fittings and the cylinder seals for any visible oily fluid. And remember, finding and fixing a leak is the real solution. Just topping off the fluid is only a temporary fix for what's probably a permanent problem. All right, next up, let's talk about your direct connection to the water, your steering. You know, when the steering feels off, it can be really unnerving. So we're going to break down how to diagnose those issues and keep you feeling in confident control. First things first, you got to know what you're working with. Most boats have one of two systems. Mechanical systems use cables and gears. They're pretty simple, but they can get stiff and bind up over time. Then you've got hydraulic systems, which use fluid pressure for a much smoother feel. But that means you have to manage fluid levels and keep an eye out for leaks. Knowing which one you have is step one. So, do any of these sound familiar? A steering wheel that feels heavy, like you're fighting it? That's a classic sign of a binding cable in a mechanical system. But a spongy or delayed response? That just screams air in the lines on a hydraulic system. And any excessive looseness or play in the wheel, well, that can point to worn-out parts in either system. Now think about that stiff, heavy steering we just mentioned. What if I told you there's a super simple action that could prevent it? According to the experts at Seastar Solutions, a massive 80% of those binding issues are totally preventable. And the secret? Just regularly lubricating the tilt tube with some good marine grease. Seriously, a few minutes of maintenance can save you a world of effort on the water. And for all you folks with hydraulic steering, that spongy feeling is your #1 enemy. As the BRP Evinrude manual points out, it doesn't take much. Even tiny little air bubbles in the fluid will compress, and that's what causes that dreaded delay between when you turn the wheel and when the engine actually responds. The fix is to bleed the system, which is a process that pushes all that trapped air out. Now, while there's a ton you can do yourself, it's also really important to know when to call in a pro. If a steering cable is badly corroded or has a nasty kink in it, or if you've bled your hydraulic system and it's still not feeling right, it might be time for a certified mechanic. There is absolutely zero shame in getting expert help for a system this critical to your safety. Okay, let's move on to our third and final trouble spot: vibrations. An unusual shake or a new buzz isn't just an annoyance, it's your boat sending you a message. And ignoring it can lead to much, much bigger and way more expensive problems down the line. And trust me, that message is a serious one. As Boat US warns, what starts as a minor hum can escalate into real damage to your engine, your drive, even your hull. You have to treat every new vibration as a critical warning that needs to be investigated right away. So where do you even start looking? Well, the investigation almost always begins with the propeller. A small ding from a rock, a slightly bent blade, or even just some fishing line wrapped around the hub can throw everything out of balance. After you've checked that, you'll want to look at your engine mounts for wear. And finally, consider the propeller shaft itself. Here's your game plan. First, you've got to play detective. When does the vibration happen? Is it only at idle, or does it show up at a specific speed? That clue is vital. Second, with the engine off and out of the water, do a thorough visual inspection of your prop. Look for any nicks, bends, or debris. And third, get a good look at your engine mounts. They're designed to absorb vibration, so if they're cracked or worn out, they just can't do their job. You know, we spend a lot of time on how to fix things when they go wrong. But the real goal, the pro-level move, is to stop them from going wrong in the first place. This is where we shift our whole mindset from being reactive to being proactive. And this isn't just some nice idea. It has a massive impact. According to the National Marine Manufacturers Association, simple monthly checks can prevent up to 70% of on-water failures. Just think about that for a second. A few minutes each month can eliminate the vast majority of problems before they ever have a chance to ruin your day. So, what does that actually look like in practice? It's all about a simple pre-launch routine. Before you head out, just check your battery voltage. Cycle the trim up and down a couple of times to make sure it's moving smoothly. Keep that steering tilt tube greased. And do a quick visual scan for any hydraulic fluid drips. That's it. That is your recipe for a trouble-free day on the water. So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that a simple, methodical approach transforms that sinking feeling of anxiety into one of real empowerment. You don't need to be a master mechanic. You just need to know what to look for. And that knowledge, well, that is truly the most important tool you can have in your boat. So as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this question. Based on everything we've talked about, what is the one simple check you're going to add to your routine before your next trip out? Whether it's a quick look at the battery terminals or a fresh shot of grease on the tilt tube, that small action is your very first step toward becoming a more confident and capable boater. Happy boating.